All right, we're back. Here's the homework. Question number 1, construct a rhombus with at least one 60-degree vertex angle. So hopefully when you see this 60 degrees, you think equilateral triangle. So if we construct an equilateral triangle, then you're going to get 60 degrees. So I already created one segment here. What am I going to do? I'm going to measure this segment with my compass. Right, I have to mark that length out here. Create an equilateral triangle. Well, if I do that on one side, I might as well do it on the other side. Because as soon as I connect these, right, so now I'm using my ruler, I'm connecting, oopsie, to the intersection. So what do we know? We know this is 60 degrees right here. And if I connect to this point over here, then I'm going to have another 60-degree angle. And so I have at least one vertex angle that's 60 degrees. Is it a rhombus? Well, it has to be a rhombus because I've just created equilateral triangles. And equilateral triangles, remember, they have the same length sides. So all of these sides are congruent, which is the definition of a rhombus. We have a vertex angle that is 60 degrees, so I have accomplished number 1. Number 2, construct a parallelogram that has two sides the same length as AB and two sides the same length as DE. And the opposite angle needs to be the measure of angle T. Same as measure of angle T. So I'm starting with the longest length because this is the way my paper. I'm going to make my DE go this way on bottom and top, and then AB will be right and left. So the first thing I need to do is take my compass and measure the length of DB. So start with that segment, DE, right? I need to measure that. So I take my compass down here. I put a point D there. So now I know this is the same length as DE. So what do I do next? What should I do next? Well, I need to put this angle T in a corner. So I'm going to have to copy the measure of angle T. So I make an arc. I'm going to come down here, replicate that arc to be the equal distance from the vertex. Then I'm going to measure the width of how wide is that angle opening. So I measure that width right there. I replicate that down here at the bottom. So now I see that if I connect D with this red intersection point, that's going to have the same measure as angle T. So this measure will be the same as the one I just copied down here. So these measures are the same. Okay, well the rest shouldn't be too bad, right? Now I need to measure the length of AB, and I need to make sure this length is the same as AB. Well, sorry, before I do that, I need to measure the length of AB. So I open my compass, I can see it's that long, so I replicate that on this side. So this has to be the point that's as high up as it can go. Okay, well if I replicate that over here, right, so I just make an arc. So D, this length has to be that long, so I put it on E, it has to be this long. Okay, so it has to go somewhere here, but I have to figure out where is it going to go. So how do I make sure it's parallel? How do I make sure DE is going to be parallel to this one up here? Well, we know opposite sides are congruent. So I already have, this is going to be congruent, so now I have to measure the length of DE. So go out here, measure the length of DE. Right, so that's how long that is. So I'm going to replicate that from this point. I'm going to see where it intersects. So here's that intersection point. So if I connect this point to this intersection over here and E to this point, then I should have a parallelogram. So let's do that with our rulers. Sorry, it's hard for me to get my ruler to line up on the board. So now I have, this is the length of AB here, this is the length of DE here. So I can't really call the sides AB, so if I were to call it whatever parallelogram, but these lengths are the same as AB, and these lengths are the same as DE. So we don't really need to name the parallelogram, but that is in fact, and then this angle here is the same measure as angle T. So there we have it. So this parallelogram I made because opposite sides are congruent, but I did have to copy this angle. Okay, number 3. Construct a rectangle using segment AB as a side and half AB as a second side. Sorry, so I don't even probably need to create it again. It says we're going to use it as a side, so I'm going to go ahead and use this as the base of the rectangle. But if I have to use half AB, you can't use your ruler and just measure half. You have to bisect it using your compass. Okay, so bisect this using your compass. One thing I know I'm going to do, because it's a rectangle, is I'm going to have to construct 90-degree angles. So in order to construct 90-degree angles, I need to extend these two sides. So if I construct a 90-degree angle, I'm going to go ahead and start with that. Construct my 90-degree angle through a point on the line. So right now I have then my intersections, so I can construct my two perpendiculars going through points A and point B. Okay, so these are 90-degree angles. That's awesome, but the key here is I have to construct the height, or this part right here, to be half the length of AB. So I need to now bisect segment AB. So by bisecting segment AB, I don't really need to bisect it in the sense that I need to draw this line segment right here that's connecting it. I just really need to get that midpoint so I can measure with my compass this distance, right? Actually, I'll do it this way. This distance so that it's half of AB. And then when I measure that length right there, that distance, I have to replicate it and make that mark up here to intersect this blue line. So clearly I need to take my ruler and extend that. I go over to this side. Did I draw my blue line segment long enough? No, I didn't. So I need to take my ruler for both of these examples, or both sides, and I need to extend my blue line, or my two sides. Oops. And so then I can connect this intersection point to this intersection point, and that should finish out my rectangle. So this length right here is half the length of AB. So, and these are congruent to each other, these are congruent to each other, and I have a 90-degree angle, and as soon as I have one 90-degree angle, I have 4 in a parallelogram, and so that's it. All right, moving on to these last 3. So this first one at the top, gotta get my compass up there. construct square given this as a diagonal. So you have to ask yourself, okay, what do we know about the diagonals of a square? Well, they are congruent to each other. So we have congruent diagonals, and the two diagonals bisect each other. So if this is one diagonal, what do I have to do? Well, I have to bisect it. So I'm going to start by bisecting this diagonal. And then after I bisect, so make your line segment long enough so that you know it's at least as long as AB. So then what do? Well, my diagonals have to be the same length. So I need to replicate this length right here. So this is how long each diagonal has to be. So this diagonal has to come out that far. This diagonal comes out that far. This diagonal comes out that far. So there we have it. We connect these four intersections, right? So this one down here to letter A. Sorry, it's hard for me to line stuff up on the board, so hopefully you guys are a little more accurate than I am. This intersection to segment to B, this intersection to B, and this intersection to A. So this is actually the easiest way to construct a square, is to have these bisecting diagonals. They all intersect at 90 degrees. These are automatically going to be 90-degree angles. All side lengths are congruent to each other. So it's a specific type of rhombus. It's a square. Or it's a rhombus and rectangle combined, which is a square. Okay, this next one, construct a rhombus with at least one 45-degree angle. Well, in order to get a 45-degree angle, we first have to construct a perpendicular, right, to get our 90 degrees, and we bisect it. After we bisect it, we make sure all four sides are the same length. So go ahead and try that. I started with my line segment here, so now I'm going to construct a 90-degree angle. There's my 90-degree angle, and now I need to bisect this angle. So how do we bisect? You put your compass on that intersection point out here. And those two arcs intersecting the sides of the angle. Okay, so I need to construct a rhombus with at least one 45-degree angle. So this is a 45-degree angle. So what do we know about a rhombus? All sides need to be equal in length. So I can just make a side length here, make it at however long I want it to be. So I want it to be this long. Okay, so here's one segment or one point. So then I can continue up here. Right, so I have 1 point, 1 point, 1 point. Well, how do I make my fourth point? Well, it's a rhombus, so what do we know? We know these sides need to be, these angles need to be congruent, or these sides need to be parallel. So I can replicate this angle right here. So how do I do that? I first need to extend my side, and then I'm going to copy that angle, and then I'm going to measure the side. So I don't know if I can do this really quickly. I don't think so, so I'm going to pause and do it, and then show you the end result. Okay, so I copied this angle, so now these two line segments are parallel. So the last thing I need to do is make sure that the sides are the same length. So I make that same arc up here, and then I connect from here to here, and there's my rhombus, four sides same length, and we know this is a 45-degree angle right here.